So,
Is this
listen,
hard?
what?
Is it hard?
No, if you've been following along with how to factor, this isn't bad at all.
Okay.
All right. So today we're going to talk about solving quadratic equations.
Does it have to do with quadrilaterals?
Nope.
No.
Quadratic means equations that have a square in them.
Oh, okay.
Robbie. Jordan. All right. So solving quadratic equations. For this, we're going to use factoring, which we've been doing for a little while.
Hey, wait, are you recording?
Yeah. No. All right. So there's two kinds that we're going to look at on today's assignment. We're going to look at ones that are already factored. So if already factored, I will give you an example of it, and then I want you guys to try on your own. So if we start out with one that's already factored, it would look like, let's say, 3x plus 1 in one set of parentheses times 4x plus 5 in the other set of parentheses. Now what makes this, you're not going to FOIL it out. What makes this an equation is that unlike the stuff that we've been looking at recently, this is going to have an equal sign on it. And we'll say it's equal to 0. If you want to solve a quadratic equation by factoring, you have to have it equal to 0 first. So what's happening here is I've got this number here that's in whatever 3x plus 1 is, and you're multiplying that by whatever 4x plus 5 is. When these two things multiply together, they turn out to be 0. So like this is just a number. Like you're going to substitute x in, maybe it's 2, and then you'll find out that this is 7. And you substitute that in here. But you're multiplying these two numbers together and getting 0 out. What do you know? Like, what's the only way to get 0 through multiplication? Yeah, one of these two has to be equal to 0. Well, it could be both. It could be 0 times 0. So your two equations that you're going to create from here, one of them is 3x plus 1 is equal to 0, and the other is 4x plus 5 is equal to 0, because one or both of these things in parentheses has to be equal to 0. So if it's the one on the left, you're just solving for x. So you need to get rid of 1 first. So minus 1, minus 1. So you'd have 3x is equal to negative 1. And then how would you get rid of the 3 that's there, Lucas? Yeah, so divide by 3, divide by 3. Now if you're not into fractions, the answer for this would be negative 1/3. If you're going to write this as a decimal, you have to write it properly. If you write negative 0.3, that is not correct. 1/3 is not 0.3. You would have to write it as negative 0.3, and then you can do repeating. That's correct. But negative 0.3 without the repeating bar is not correct. Okay? And same thing for 4x plus 5. So this is one of your possible solutions for x. This is going to have another possible solution if you solve 4x plus 5 equals 0. So you'd start by subtracting 5, 4x equal to negative 5. Divide by 4, divide by 4. And then x would be equal to negative 5/4 if you want to, negative 1 1/4 if you prefer the mixed number, or if you prefer the decimal, negative 1.25. Now, if I were to take either one of these numbers and substitute it back in for x, I would get that the whole thing is equal to 0. Because if I put this one into this equation, this whole thing turns into 0. And then you're multiplying something by 0 and getting 0 back out. So this is a solution. And if I put this one into this parentheses, this whole thing turns into 0, and then I'm 0 times something and getting 0 back out. So this is also a solution. This is an equation that has more than one solution.
Is that all?
No.
It's not?
Oh, no. So, sorry, what did you say, Richard?
Do you have to write all solutions?
You have to write both of them in this case. There's only 2.
Okay, so wait, that's not the end of it?
No, that's the end of this type of problem, but I'm going to show you some other ones too.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't get super more complicated than this though. Like, go ahead. So what I'd like you guys to do is, in your notes, if you could write down this equation. Let's do x minus 3 in one set of parentheses and x plus 4 in the other equal to 0. I want you guys to solve that for x. So you've got these two things in parentheses. You're going to break them apart. write them both as an equation that's equal to 0, and then find out what the two solutions would be. So here's one, set that equal to 0. Here's the other, set that equal to 0, and then you'll get two solutions.
Got it.
What? Okay, then write it down.
I don't even think I did this right.
Okay, so
Paper?
plus 3 and then plus 3 over here too.
I got paper. Oh, so we're doing this.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it's not x equals 0. Yeah, that's right. So those are your two solutions. If you were to go back and put this number in here, this turns into 0, and the whole thing goes well.
Switch back. Switch back.
Exactly. Oh yeah, no, I'm
I
sorry.
just figured out that 2 minus 3 is 0.
Yeah, and so that like 3 is one thing that would make the whole thing be 0.
Yeah.
And then negative 4 is one thing that would make the whole thing be 0. And it's sorry. It's not necessarily or because it could be and.
Yeah, I don't get this.
Wait.
Yeah, that's right.
There should be the other application positive and
Good luck.
Alright, so what you need to do here in order to solve this is take those two things that are in parentheses and set each of them equal to 0. So most of you already did this. I'm just going to go through it really quickly here. So this is going to be x minus 3 equal to 0 and x plus 4 equal to 0. So plus 3, you get x equals 3. Minus 4, you get x equals negative 4. There will be some problems on today's assignment that are set up this way, and it should be super easy to get those done. It shouldn't be too bad. Now, the one step up from here is if we were to throw in factoring with it. So if they weren't already factored, it's not that bad. So let's take a look at an example of one that is not already factored. So,
You want to write this one down?
yeah, please. So I'm going to try to make sure that I'm checking notes more often, which is a very good thing for some people.
Oh, since I have my notebook, can I still get points for
The note check from yesterday? Yeah.
that one here?
Yeah, that's fine.
I only have E's and no notebooks. Is that two E's?
No, it's F-A-C-T-O-R-E-D.
Factorial.
Oh, okay, it looks like that.
You look like
Yeah.
Factorito.
What is factorial?
Nothing. Okay. So with this one, it's not already factored. So what you have to do first is make sure that everything's on the left-hand side and zero's on the right, and then factor the left-hand side first. So for this one, since it's got that 2 there, your first step to factor would be doing 2 times 10, which is 20. And then you need to see what can multiply to be 20 and add to be negative 1. So like I could do 1 and 20, negative 1 and negative 20. I could do 2 and 10, negative 2 and negative 10. That's a 10. Are there any other factors of 20?
5 and 4.
So I could do 4 and 5. Oh, is it supposed to be? Yeah, sorry, this was supposed to be negative 20, or negative 10 there. Sorry, my mistake. So you could do negative 4 and positive 5, or negative 5 and positive 4. Which one of these adds up to be negative 1?
Negative 5
Negative
and 4.
4.
Right. So this is what you're going to switch the middle number into. So rather than it being minus x, it's going to be 2x squared minus 5x plus 4x minus 10 equal to 0. And if you were to add these two middle terms together, because they can add together, they'd add together to be negative 1. But we're splitting them to make it work better in the equation, to make it factor more easily. So 2x squared and 5x, and then 4x and 10. So 2 and 5. Robbie, what's their greatest common factor?
4.
Robbie?
4?
Does 4 go into 2?
Oh, yeah.
It does?
No, no. X, my bad.
So x, yep. and then like you could say 1x, but saying x is perfectly fine. So then 2x squared divided by x, you're doing 2 divided by 1, which is 2. X squared divided by x, which is x. And then you're doing negative 5 divided by 1, which is minus 5. X divided by x is no more x. And then with these two, 4x and minus 10, 2. So you're going to do plus 2. And then 4 divided by 2 is 2. X comes along. Minus, so negative 10 divided by 2 is 5. Equal to 0. So your two parentheses here, one is going to be what's inside, 2x minus 5, and the other is what's outside, x plus 2.
Pretty much factoring.
Sorry?
Pretty much factoring, but you couldn't put 0.
Yeah, and now, once you got it to this point, because it's an equation, this isn't the answer. You have to find the answer. So you would split this into two separate equations. One would be 2x minus 5 equals 0, and the other is x plus 2 equals 0. So if it's the one on the right, or sorry, one on the left, plus 5, 2x equals 5. Divide by 2, divide by 2. X equals, you can write it as 5 halves if you want to leave it as an improper fraction. You can do 2 and 1 half if you like the mixed number. Or, if you're into decimals, 2.5. 250. And then if it's the one on the right, minus 2, minus 2. So x equals negative 2, and then you're done. These are the two solutions.
So you can leave it as an improper fraction as well.
Absolutely. So long as it's reduced, I am A-okay with improper fractions. And so is Miss Bouchard, the lady who's going to be teaching you guys next year. Improper fractions are awesome. All right. So,
Like,
for your assignments,
How many problems does this assignment have?
like the movies.
Like 1 million? Here's with that, we're gonna work out for the next first of the school year. Get about 100 of them done.
yes, Robbie.
Regular students.
I will give her a call.
Can I go with them?
Oh,
I will give her a
Robbie's
call
all the way
in
back there. Take a minute, Robbie. Thank you.
All right. So we can go over some of this on the board too.
Wait, can I take that quiz Monday?